Hello and welcome to another slice of rye toast. Today's serving is called Free Fall. The date is January the 18th, 1991. I am staring down at the California desert from the open door of a de Havilland Twin Otter plane. Securely attached to my back is a tandem master by the name of Scott Christensen, who will hopefully ensure I survive my first skydiving experience. And on his back is a parachute. From my perch on the edge of the open doorway, I can see Lake Elsinore and the small town which shares its name, 12,500 feet below. To the west are the Ortega Mountains, and beyond my view are Los Angeles, 70 miles to the northwest, and Palm Springs, which is 70 miles to the east. I take a glance behind me at the interior of the Twin Otter, which in its passenger version would have 19 seats, but this one has an open cabin with no seats. And today, the cargo is a group of 6 would-be skydivers sitting on the bare floor with our respective tandem masters firmly latched to our backs. Accompanying us are 6 other parachutists, each with a video camera mounted on their helmet, who will individually leap from the plane just ahead of their assigned subject to record the journey as we plunge one by one toward the desert floor. We're all specially attired in white, appropriately named jumpsuits with helmets and goggles and an altimeter on the wrist to indicate our height from the ground. At a signal from the co-pilot, my videographer edges half out of the plane, holding onto the doorway with his right hand while his right leg braces him against the 200 km/h winds. Scott and I inch toward the open doorway. We are so tightly fastened together that we need to crouch and synchronize our arm and leg movements like some giant ungainly crab. I am literally being pushed to the very edge and am now looking straight down with my head out of the plane. The videographer releases his grasp and disappears. It is the moment of truth. The engine and wind noise are now deafening, but are drowned out by a louder and persistent question shrieking through my brain. What the am I doing here? To begin to answer that question, I need to cast my mind back over 30 years to the National Schoolboys' Own exhibition, an annual event held in London. One of the most popular exhibits is the 3-story high Paratroop Training Tower, hosted by the Parachute Regiment of the British Army. I patiently line up, then climb the stairs to a platform where I am fitted into a harness, led to the edge, and then unceremoniously shoved out into thin air. The experience is simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. The harness mechanism engages and rapidly slows my descent, so that I land gently on a pile of mats, and as I clamber to my feet, I decide that it would one day be fun to experience the real thing. Fast forward to 1989. I have been with Wang Labs, a computer and word processor manufacturer, for 7 productive and formative years in increasingly senior roles in sales and marketing management. And it turns out that I am quite a good manager, having discovered an unexpected talent and flair for mentoring and coaching my staff. But I have a new boss, and he is not as impressed with me as I am with myself. So we agree to differ and part ways. The stage is now set for me to take another leap into the unknown, into the next phase of my life and career. Up to this point, my people development skills have been mostly intuitive and self-taught. But I realize I need to properly learn my craft, hone my skills, and most importantly for a husband and father of 2 teenage daughters, make a living at it. Which leads me to purchase a training franchise from a company run by a well-known leader in the field, Tony Robbins. As a franchisee, I will receive training from Tony and his team, which will, I hope, be world-class and boost me on my way. And so I find myself at the company headquarters in San Diego with several other recent franchise recruits. The training is thorough and intense. We also focus on breaking through perceived limitations by creating life metaphors to facilitate those breakthroughs. The skydive is intended to be one such metaphor. So on this day, the 6 of us who have consented to make the jump have been driven 75 miles north along Interstate 15 to the tiny airstrip at Lake Elsinore, where we have been outfitted with our white jumpsuits and given an intensive, albeit brief, training session to prepare us for what to expect. We've also signed a stack of forms to absolve the skydiving company and Robbins from every conceivable form of liability in the case of our injury or death, which we are assured is statistically unlikely, but not impossible. Just as in my schoolboy days, I feel an almighty shove in the back as Scott does the leaping into the void for both of us. But this is on an indescribable scale of difference. The spontaneous shock of adrenaline-fueled feelings that course through my body and brain in that moment are the most intense that I have ever felt. I feel uncoupled from anything that I can describe as reality or normalcy, to be replaced by a roaring, chaotic jumble of sensations and emotions. Think of Sandra Bullock after she is thrown from the space station in the movie Gravity. But after a few moments, my body and mind begin to reorient themselves. We are free falling. The noise and wind are intense. I begin to enjoy the rush. And then a problem occurs. The enormous wind blast is pushing my goggles up over my forehead, and underneath the goggles are my glasses, which are in danger of being swept from my face. I attempt to pull them back on, but the wind pressure is driving my arms around like flailing ribbons. Luckily, above me, Scott sees the problem and firmly pushes them down for me. And then something else strange happens. Scott starts waving his arms around in front of my face. I am puzzled by this and slightly annoyed as he continues to persist in this bizarre behavior. Finally, he reaches around to my chest and pulls a metal loop that is hanging from a strange cord, which seems vaguely important in the recesses of my memory. There is an immediate jolt and violent tug on my harness as the parachute deploys, and the intense roaring and wind instantly diminish. And I suddenly remember with horror that the plan instilled in our pre-jump training was to free fall from 12,500 to 5,000 feet, at which point I am supposed to pull the ripcord. In the excitement, I have forgotten to check my altimeter and have missed Scott's signal to remind me. So Scott has stepped in and prevented us pounding a hole in the desert floor at 200 kilometers an hour, thus preventing me becoming a statistical outlier and activating the stack of disclaimers. The final phase of the descent is as peaceful as the earlier stage was violent. My goggles and glasses are now secure, and there is now no sensation of falling. I feel that I am suspended motionless while objects on the ground seem to be slowly expanding in size, like writing on the surface of a balloon as it inflates. There is just a gentle whisper of air and rustle of nylon parachute fabric. My adrenaline rush has expended itself, and I am now a weak, helpless ragdoll with arms and legs dangling as Scott expertly slows our descent and guides us down to a gentle landing. I am supposed to plant my feet as we land, but my brain is now disengaged and my body has been drained of all energy, so my legs crumple on impact and I plant my bottom on the ground instead. No marks for style, but I am down in one piece. Scott, of course, has nailed a landing for both of us, and as he decouples himself and helps me to scramble to my feet, a Tony Robbins instructor approaches me and asks me how I feel. I automatically blurt out the obligatory, "Fantastic," and then pause. How do I feel? How will this experience change my life? Or will it? The answers are not immediately apparent, but begin to dawn on me as I compare notes with the others in my group over the next days and weeks. One is a stay-at-home wife and mother who has bought the Robbins franchise to take her life to the next level. She feels the event will inspire her to tackle the challenge with greater confidence. Another is an Army veteran who is an experienced parachutist. It's just a day at the office for him and clearly means very little. By contrast, Rusty, a family man from Indiana, freezes in terror as he is about to jump and stays in the plane. On landing, he takes up an offer of counseling by the Robbins team, which results in him identifying a long-suppressed, traumatic childhood memory, which has resurfaced as he stood at the aircraft door. 2 days later, he successfully completes the jump, having confronted the effects of that childhood trauma. And as for me, it was fun. It was exciting. It was an adventure. It did satisfy a childhood desire, but it wasn't really a lifelong dream or a tick on a bucket list. And I didn't kid myself that I was brave to do it, as I had no fear of the jump, and I don't think you can have bravery without fear. Rusty, on the other hand, was brave. So I came to realize over time that the event itself didn't change my life. But it pretty quickly led me to a profound realization that did and does continue to guide me to this day. And that realization is... nothing has any meaning other than the meaning I give it. Think about that. Nothing has any meaning other than the meaning a person gives it. That meaning is personal and can be life-changing, life-affirming, or completely innocuous. And I also learned that the search for meaning is a journey, not a destination, because meaning can also evolve with time and experience. I've been fired twice in my life that I can remember. Actually, they called them layoffs, but it sure felt like I was fired. And there may have been some other times that I don't remember. But whatever they called them, I didn't think those were great days at the time. But looking back, I realized that they were invaluable experiences, like rocket boosters that are discarded to enable flight to new heights. And real-life experience is the greatest teacher if you're willing to learn from the lessons taught. So what do I think about the parachute jump today? It strikes me it was a kind of rebirth. I was pushed out of a body into a chaotic and terrifying world of sights and sounds that I didn't have the sensory equipment to understand or respond to. While totally weak and helpless, I was guided gently to safety by a mostly unseen person who then detached from me and allowed me to stand on my own feet. But that's just the meaning that I give it. What do you think? And now for the story behind the story. The National Schoolboys' Own exhibition was a popular annual event in London from the 1920s to the 1960s. The Parachute Training Tower was on many exhibits, no doubt designed to impress young minds with the exciting prospect of a life in the British Armed Forces. In 1984, Madeline and I were two of the 7,000 salespeople and guests from around the world who travelled to the annual Wang Labs Sales Achievers Conference in Rome. As part of the festivities, we attended in costume what was billed as the largest toga party to be staged in the city since the days of the Roman Empire. The company was riding high then, but just like the Roman Empire, declined and disappeared into the history books within a few years. The training was everything I hoped it would be and much more. It led to a world of insights about who I was and who I wanted to be. Some final notes. The skydiving sound clips you've heard here are lifted directly from the audio track of the video of my one and only parachute jump experience.
Open your arm just a little bit. There you go. Thumbs are about ear level. Good. Okay. That's the adjusted arch. What does this mean?
Look at your altimeter.
Look at your altimeter, right. What does the wave of the hand mean?
Pull
ripcord. You got it. Okay.
And sitting on a shelf in my office is the pair of glasses that almost disappeared into the California sky on that January day 31 years ago.
All right. Oh, boy.
Until next time, this is Rightos.